right, we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. I see a lot of you. I think we're already at 300. Uh, we actually maxed out the registration for this webinar. So clearly a lot of interest around what we're going to be talking about today. And myself and Brian, we're very excited to be here uh, talking to you about Sisu and the value of this new collaboration that we have going on with eXp. So a couple things before we really dive into this. This is going to be a pretty fast-moving webinar. We are going to go deep on the Sisu platform. We will actually get into the project. We'll be clicking around. This will be very tactical. You'll walk away understanding what Sisu is and how you can get value out of it today. So first thing that everybody could do me a favor, and some of you already are doing this, which I appreciate. Let us know in the chat where are you calling in from, and what's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway that you're hoping to get out of this. If you could drop that in the chat, where you're calling in from, what you're hoping to get out of this, that will help Brian and I tailor this conversation to be as valuable as it possibly can for you. A couple other things. We do want this to be interactive. We will be watching the chat. We'll do our best to do some Q&A at the end. We likely won't get to all questions. This will be recorded. We will send you a recording immediately after. So if you're registered, you will automatically get a copy of this recording, and you can send it to anyone on your team that maybe wants to check it out. And recommend that you do that, because we'll be going tactical in this webinar. You'll want to take the webinar afterwards, the recording, and kind of slow it down and actually go do the stuff that we're going to do live with you here on the call. So I see tons of chats coming in. I think we got people from all over based on the amount of chats we got.
Based on the number of questions, based on the number of things coming in. One of the things you guys may want to share when you ask questions is if you're an agent or a team leader. That may be helpful as well.
Super helpful for sure. I'll read a couple of these. Looks like Joe's calling in from Norfolk. Just started using Sisu, like to know how to use it best to track what I'm doing. Solo agent, only tracking my own business. Love that. David's calling in from Temple, Texas. Wants to understand Sisu, how to use it more efficiently. Jill's calling in from Massachusetts, looking to find accountability and business analytics. You've all come to the right place. And then the other question I'm seeing a lot is like, what is Sisu? Which probably a good place to start. Let's start there. So Brian, I'm gonna give it to you. Brian's the founder and CEO of Sisu. Maybe give us a little bit of the backstory. What is Sisu, and why is this new collaboration with eXp so exciting?
Yeah. So, people usually ask me about the names. I'm going to share with you guys how we came up with the name. Sisu is a Finnish term, and the Sisu, or the Finnish people, actually credit Sisu to winning the war against Russia when they had 1/10 the number of soldiers. And why is that important? Well, if you Google it, one of the things you may find is there's no direct translation as far as words go. The closest would be courage or grit. But when I heard this translation, it made me want to name the company this. And that specifically is being able to accomplish more than you even thought possible. And so on that note, Sisu was built because about 8 years ago, my wife, I just sold a business. My wife asked me to jump in and help her build her real estate team. She had 5 agents at the time. She now has about 80 agents. And when I did that, I became the listing agent professional, and I got to spend a lot of time actually with the Mike Ferry coaches and putting numbers into a numbers analyzer. But even that was not, it just wasn't efficient. Once a week, I would put numbers in. And I'm sorry, guys, I have an alarm going off in my background, so I apologize. Zach, I'm going to mute myself while that
happens. Go grab that
real
quick. We'll keep things moving here. To be continued. We will get the rest of this story. Are we good? Keep going.
Okay, we're good.
I was going to start doing stand-up comedy while to hold it over. So you saved everybody.
So guys, at that time, I was doing listings, and I sold 48 listings my first year. But what I found was I was having to put numbers in on Sunday night because I met with my coach every Monday. And you guys have probably done this, but if you're tracking all of your appointments and your conversations and you're putting those in on a weekly basis, you're probably thinking, okay, I can give a pretty good guesstimate. But that's what it was. It was a guess, right? every Sunday I'd be like, okay, how many conversations did I have? So what I found is I actually had to start tracking with a piece of paper and a pen, 4 lines down, 1 across, so that I could count that up at the end of every week and add that in. So anyway, when I was doing this, I said, there's got to be a better way. So we started by building an app. That was the first thing Sisu released, was an app that was specifically written in iOS. And that app allowed me to put in real-time information. So click, every time I had a conversation, I'd click. Every time I go on an appointment, I'd put it in. Who did I meet with? And by doing that, what we found, and again, at the time, Spring only had 5 agents, but 5 agents, what happened was we went from those agents averaging 1 to 2 transactions a month to those agents averaging 3 to 4 transactions a month, just because they were actually putting in goal tracking. And so that's formed. That's how it started, is really, something to help you track your goals, track your activities, know how many activities you need to do in order to hit certain numbers. And it's evolved from there to where it's a full back-end platform as well.
Yeah. Love that. Thanks for sharing. The company's progressed tremendously over the what have we been, about 8 years on this, Brian?
Yeah.
Over that time, a lot of EXP teams adopted Sisu on their own, right? There's a very high percentage of like top producing EXP teams that were already on Sisu prior to this, collaboration that we rolled out at eXp-Con just this year, and seeing tremendous results. And actually, if you were at eXp-Con, you heard in one of the main keynotes, they were actually talking about how FastCAP and eXp University is already using the platform and getting tremendous results from it, right? So they're taking new agents. I can't remember the exact numbers, but in their like first 6 weeks, like 3, 4, new signed buyers or sellers, which is spectacular for a new agent.
So I know those numbers. When Leo announced that, basically for those in the FastCAP program, and I think it was 600 agents, if I'm not mistaken, but they averaged in that 6 weeks 2.5 units under contract. These are brand new agents, which is amazing. But then they looked at it even closer and said, what about the ones that actually did the number of activities we said you have to do to hit the goals? The agents that actually hit the correct number of activities, they actually averaged 3.8 under contracts in that period. So it's really a game, guys. It's like, if you go to a basketball game, professional basketball game, football game, whatever your sport is, if there's not a scoreboard there, you wouldn't even want to be at the game, right? It's the same thing here. If you keep score, if you know how many appointments you need to go on in order to put 4 under contract every month, it's pretty easy to say, okay, I'm going to go on 2 appointments a week, right? And in order to go on 2 appointments a week, this is how many conversations I need to have. And that may be jumping ahead a little bit, Zach. But that's really the point of Sisu. And I guarantee you this, guys, you can double your production if you just treat it like a business and keep score.
Yeah, 100%. So let's jump into this. We talk about this a lot, but we actually did run a study on it too, because one thing that's really interesting here at Sisu, I'll share my screen, is we have access to more like granular production data than just about anybody in this industry, right? We have thousands of teams, probably hundreds of thousands of agents on this platform tracking their numbers. And so we ran a study on those numbers to try and find some trends, right? Really what we were looking at is, what are the teams that are actually growing even in this challenging market? What are they doing that's creating that growth? And we did it by the numbers, and then we did it by interviewing these teams. We found exactly what Brian just talked about. Top agents treat the business like a business. What does that actually mean? It means they understand their math of sales, right? We're going to get into that today. Math of sales means if I want to close 20 homes this year, reverse engineering that back to how many conversations I need to have day in, day out to get that goal, right? That's math of sales. Top agents who are actually growing even in this challenging market, they understand their math of sales like the back of their hand. Not only do they understand their math of sales, but they track their progress in real time. So they actually know not just what I have to do, but how well am I doing it? Am I on pace or off pace? We're going to talk about exactly that and how to do that in Sisu. And this one is near to my heart because you can know your numbers, you can track your numbers. But what was that quote you always say, Brian, about, you know, tracking your progress, and then if you report it, it grows exponentially?
Geez, I don't know. I've said so
I
many
think
quotes,
it's like
Zach. I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but
what's measured improves. What's measured and reported on
oh,
frequently improves exponentially, right?
correct. Yeah, so it's one thing to measure, guys, but I think you all know the top agents or the top team owners, they all have a coach. And the cool thing about Sisu is it can allow somebody like your team leader to actually do an effective job coaching you and holding you accountable. And there are some individuals that could actually hold themselves accountable, but will you? That's the question. If you're not willing to hold yourself accountable at the highest standard, you need to have a coach or a team leader doing that for you.
Yeah. And so when we look at all the agents on this Sisu platform, the ones that are thriving, they hit this really well. They fulfill these 3 points. When Brian talked about the difference between the agents in the FastCAP program who saw great results versus those who saw spectacular results, it's the execution of these 3 things, right? Know your numbers, know where you're at versus your numbers or your business plan, and report to a leader, coach, mentor regularly.
I mean, we actually had somebody and a coach for us just yesterday, and he talked about full decision. So here's my question to you. If you have a goal to do 30 homes a year or whatever that goal is, make the full decision. You will do whatever it takes to hit that goal. And if you measure that through Sisu, I can guarantee you a predictable income. Like, it's guaranteed. You just have to make sure you're doing the activities to get the outcomes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into this. Let's dive into how does Sisu, and a lot of you already have access to Sisu. Some of you are still waiting. Some of you maybe haven't requested access yet. It's available. So a lot of you do have logins. We will talk about how to actually, if you're having trouble getting in, where can you go for support, stuff like that. We will get into that later in the webinar. What we're going to talk about today is once you get in there, like, what do you do? How can I spend an hour today on Sisu and be off to the races and be getting value out of this thing, right? So I'm gonna jump to the next one here. See my cool GIFs here. I spent a lot of time on those. Now we're just buzzing right through them. Key training objectives today. So we're going to talk about customizing the system to your liking, right? So this means creating custom activities, adding and rearranging transaction fields. And one other thing we're going to cover real quick in this first point is if you're a team, how you can quickly add your other team members into the Sisu platform. So I'll switch to Sisu so we can actually start diving into this. Share my next screen here. Brian's going to try and man the chat, although there is a lot of chat. So good luck keeping up, Brian.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, whoops, that's not the right one. There we go. Okay, so when you log into Sisu, this is essentially what you're going to see, right? Blank slate. It's what Sisu is, everything that Brian explained, but it is the best way to track and analyze and hold yourself accountable to your business plan and actually create that business plan, right? So there's a couple things we want to hit real first that you can customize in here that will make the experience better for you. The first is if you're a team leader and you just go to admin users right here, you can actually add your team members and you have no restrictions on doing that, right? So if I have somebody on my team and I want to add them in, I can just go ahead and give them access, and I probably want to give them agent level access. So there's different levels. Like if I'm a team leader, I'm going to see everybody. If I'm just an agent, I'm only going to see my own business, and there's even levels inside of that, right? But essentially, if you have a team, make sure you add them into Sisu so that you can, they can also start tracking their numbers and you can use it as a team, right? Doesn't cost you anything extra, it's included. The next thing that we recommend customizing, if I go into admin team settings, there's a lot of configurations here, but one of the things we like to think about is what are the activities that I want to track, right? And we have quite a few recommended ones, right? And ideas. So you can, maybe you care about tracking thank you cards or prepared CMAs, or maybe there's other custom activities even that you want to be able to track. My recommendation here, and I know Brian feels the same way, less is more. I would rather you actually minimize the number of activities that you're trying to track in here, so that you can maximize your time, but also the value you get out of those activities, right? So if it's me, I'm coming into activities, and I'm probably actually eliminating some of these because less is more, and I can always add activities that I want to track later, right?
Yeah, I would say in this market, one of the ones you probably want to add is open houses. Like if you're running a small team, a new team, whatever, if you can make sure your agents go on an open house every week, and some of you guys might be every week, I think every month. Well, you would actually know the numbers if you had them tracked. Maybe it's 2 a month. But if you'll make sure your agents are going on open houses, they will have a successful business, I guarantee you.
Yep.
So make sure you're tracking that. So when you're holding a one-on-one, actually have them, that's one of the things you're going to have them report out on it is, did you do your open house last week, right?
Love it.
They're saying it's hard to see the screen, Zach. I don't know if you can blow it up a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? I can probably share it on my other desktop, and it will probably be a little easier to see. Let's try
that. Someone's asking, is there a category for door knocking? As Zach said, this is customizable, so you can add any activity you want. Just be careful not to add too many, because if you do add too many activities, it's hard to hold people accountable to a dozen activities. So I would say choose your core 5 and report on that. Now, the Sisu circles that you're going to see in a dashboard in a minute, those are actually the core things that every single realtor real estate team is going to want to track. But there may just be a few on top of that you want to track. So we'll get into that here in a second as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The core stuff, closings and signed listings and appointments, like that's all core to Sisu. These are kind of like lead gen activities almost is a good way to think about them, right? Prospecting type activities, things that you do to create business, right? And I love the core 5, pick 5 and focus on them, right?
Yeah, and outside of that, I mean, even if you didn't add any activities to here, if you do the core dashboard activities in Sisu, you have your 3 core lead measure activities, your 3 core lag measure activities. That will actually let you track your business better than 99% of the people in real estate. So, and Zach will dive into that here in a second.
Cool. Couple questions I want to hit. Yes, this is being recorded, and so if we're moving a little fast or you wanted to zoom in on something, you will get the recording after, and I would highly recommend you take that recording and go through it piece by piece and actually do the stuff we're talking about. For now, I would focus on just trying to take it all in, right?
Hey, Zach, well, oh, sorry. One question that's coming in, and I've seen it multiple times. People who are in FastCAP, some of them have lost access. Maybe you can address that because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what they need to do there.
Yeah, if you're in FastCAP, you won't have the admin panel because the FastCAP team actually defines, like, for example, which activities, right? So they admin the FastCAP. When you graduate out of FastCAP, you'll kind of move off into your own instance, right? And you should coordinate with the FastCAP program to get that. They handle all of that, but you will eventually be transitioned into your own Sisu account. You won't lose your data, but you'll be transitioned in your own account where you can kind of customize it the way that you want. Right. But while you're in the FastCAP program, it's important just to be congruent with what they're doing, that you're using the same stuff that they've defined. So.
And if you were on a team and you're no longer on a team and you've downloaded this free version of Sisu, you will have your own account now, right? So you would basically be starting fresh. The owner of your team actually owns all of the information from your previous account if you've left a team. So that's a question that came up as well.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. So next little thing here, we talked about adding your users, customizing your activities. One other thing, just to kind of, customize the system to your liking, is I'm going to click on forms and fields over here, right? So forms and fields essentially define what you track on a transaction, right? A lot the precursor to this. So most people before they're on Sisu, at least most of the good agents and the good teams, they keep some kind of spreadsheet, right, where they're actually tracking their transactions. Brian, I know you guys did this prior to Sisu, right? It was like one of the drivers is, who wants to track their business on a spreadsheet, right?
It's very difficult to do, which is why one of the reasons Sisu was started. If you take a group of even 5 agents, let alone 50 agents, and you try to back in to, okay, in order to sell this many homes, I need to do this many, put this many under contract. And in order to put this many under contract, I need to go on this many appointments. And in order to go on this many appointments, I need to set this many appointments. In order to set this many appointments, I need to have this many conversations. We actually brought a coach in about 5 years ago to do this for a team. It took 4 hours of a morning, a long morning, to actually get 30 agents through doing it that way. The Sisu platform actually will do all the reverse engineering for you, as long as you know your percentages and after your conversion percentages. And after you've been on Sisu for a while, we actually know your conversion percentages, and so we'll do that automatically for you.
Yeah. So the point, if you're keeping a spreadsheet like that to track your business, first of all, like kudos to you for doing that. That's a really good, healthy thing to be doing. And you should be thinking Sisu will replace that, make you more efficient, and give you better reporting on that, right? So how do we replace that? It's in the transactions in Sisu. So if I go into just my basic transaction overview, right? This is just the basic information that I'm tracking on my transactions, right? So I'm tracking first name, last name, all the key dates, like when did I first meet with them, or when did I set an appointment, when did I meet with them, when did I sign an agreement, buyer, broker, listing, when did I put them under contract, when did they close, what was the transaction amount, what was the gross commission, what was my split as an agent on that, and then any notes, right? This is already set up for you. This is just the basics, right? But you might decide that there's something over here that you want to track, such as you want to track who the mortgage company is, right? Maybe that's important to you, right? So I went ahead and added that to this form so that I can also track the mortgage company, right? Another thing that maybe I care to track is maybe I actually want to see the address here too, right? That would be an important one for sure. And I can rearrange them, right? So I can have this address show up right at the top. Whatever's kind of logical to me, right? But think about it as replacing your spreadsheet with this system, right? So that you can get the reporting and the ease of use out of it, right? So same thing here with activities, less is more, right? I would not go crazy adding tons of fields. I would add them as the need for them arises, right? Less is more, try and keep it simple to start. Anything to add, Brian, before we kind of move on to the next section?
No, I think that covers it, Zach.
Okay. Back into my slides for a second here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about leveraging the goal calculator to set your high-level goals. So when we talk about math of sales, reverse engineering your business, Sisu has a very robust built-in system for doing that, for telling it how much you want to make and actually reverse engineering and doing all the math down to what you need to do daily, weekly, monthly, right? I'll go back into Sisu and we'll walk through doing that. By the way, I feel bad. There's so many questions here and I read them in the chat and I want to hit them. We're going to get through all the most important content. We're going to hit as many questions as we can, and we'll give you all a great place to go for support afterwards as well. So we will make sure your questions are handled. Let's get back into Sisu here. Okay, so I'm actually going to go to the personal dashboard. This is kind of the heart of the system, right? And what we kind of focus on a lot is these circles right here, right? So everything from conversations. Somebody asked in the chat, what about appointments? Appointments are such an important thing to track. Why were those not in activities? That's because they're tracked over here, right? So everything from conversations all the way down to closed, I'm tracking through a transaction. And the thing that I want to point out is right now it's saying I'm 0 out of my goal of 500 conversations, right? And this outer ring is where I should be because we're 5 days into December, right? And I'll have a ring that shows me where I'm actually at, right? So if I go real quick, this is maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but if I go in and just log 10 conversations for today, so I went to the record screen up here and I logged 10 conversations. If I refresh here, you can see that now I see that progress of 10 conversations against my goal, right? If I go and log, let's see if I can get something that gets me on pace. I'll log 100 just to show you guys this. Right, you can see it showing me where I'm at, you know, based on where I'm at with, or based on what my goal is, right? But what we're going to talk about first is how do I set those goals? How do I get those goals in here? And it's really, really easy to do. So in Sisu, you go into this drop down in the top right, goal calculator. And this is where you can set certain things. So here's one thing that's really cool too. As you use Sisu will start to calculate and know these numbers for you, right? So when I'm brand new to the system, I need to tell Sisu what my average price point is, right? So let's say my average price point is $455, right? Over time, though, it will start to actually understand that and calculate it for you when you come back into the goal calculator, right? This is my paid income goal. So how much do I as an agent want to make in my pocket after splits, after referrals, after everything? Like how much money do I want to make this year as an agent, right? I'm going to go ahead and put in 200,000. What's my split, right? We'll go 50% if I'm on a team. By the way, I know we're talking about teams a lot. This all 100% applies to you as a solo agent, and it's totally usable for you as a solo agent. There's no restrictions. We're just trying to cover all use cases here. What percent of my business is buyers, right? Let's say I'm 75% buyers, 25% listings. What's my average GCI? So on average, what percent am I getting per deal gross to my side, right? Let's say I'm getting 2.8% on average, right? Now these ratios, you can change them, but they're pre-populated with Sisu averages. So on average in Sisu, 81% of transactions that go under contract end up closing eventually, right? That's just what we've calculated from our system. If you think that number's different for you, right? Maybe you're getting more like 90% or actually ending up closing at some point. You can modify that number, right? Signed to under contract is like, okay, you take a buyer or you take a listing, what percent of the time are they getting to under contract, right? What percent of the time is the buyer getting their offer accepted? What percent of the time is the seller going under contract, right? 51% is about the average we see across the platform. Appointment met to signed. If you meet with somebody, listing presentation, how often are you walking away with that signed listing agreement, right? If you meet with a buyer for the first time, how often are they signing that buyer broker agency, right? Or buyer broker agreement. Set to met is pretty self-explanatory. If I set 10 appointments and 7 of them I actually go on, that's 70%, right? It's about the average that we see. And then conversations to appointments, right? How many people do I need to talk to, prospecting conversations to set an appointment, right? So I want to hit each of those really quickly, but here's the thing. When you log into Sisu and you go to this drop down up here and you go goal calculator, the only thing you really have to do, and you can get pretty good goals, is put in your average price point and put in how much money you want to make and maybe your split and hit calculate, because all those other averages are pretty well defined from across the Sisu system. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you can see what it did for me is it backed into everything from how much I need to make monthly. So if I want to make 200,000 a year, that's about 16,667 every month, right? And how much volume is that going to be based on my average commission rates, based on all the inputs that you gave the system, right? How many buyers or sellers do I need to close each month, right? On average, all the way down to how many conversations do I need to have to hit my goal, right? So when I hit, this is super important. So take note of this, especially if you're watching the recording and you're going through this. This just calculates the goals. When I hit save goals, that's what's going to actually set them up in the system for me, right? And the purpose of that is you can come in and run the goal calculator whenever you want. And we recommend that you do, because you need to stay agile. You need to stay nimble. You need to adjust to changes in the market, right? I think everyone in this webinar has probably had a year where they created a business plan in November, and by March of the next year, that business plan was completely out the window, right? Well, you shouldn't just not have a plan at that point. You should come back into the Sisu goal calculator, recalculate, readjust, and let's set a new bearing, let's set a new direction, right? Brian, anything to add before we kind of keep moving here?
No, I'm just trying to keep up with the chat, but just know, guys, I guess the one thing I want to point out, we will give a QR code at the end of this so that you guys can all get access to an account if you do not yet have one. And if you went from a team and do not yet have an account, set up an account. These accounts will be set up with your email address that is your eXp email address.
Brian, people are loving your typing.
No, it's your typing. Whenever you type something, your keyboard's pretty
loud.
Is
it?
So
okay.
People are complaining about it. They want me to mute you, but then they wouldn't be able to hear your voice. So
that's true.
I'm not gonna do that. Sorry, guys. I thought about it, but I'm not gonna do it.
I swear I will try and type softly. I do tend to pound the keyboard a little bit, but good stuff. Okay, so we've gotten through goals, right? Now, here's one thing I want to show you back into the personal dashboard, right? Which is kind of where we started with this. So now that I set my goals, that's what's pulling into this bottom number. And what's really nice and what's really hard to do on a spreadsheet is like adjusting those goals to monthly, weekly, quarterly. And so when I'm in this dashboard, I can select any date range I want. Right now I'm looking at the month of December, but maybe I like to think about my business more, maybe I like to think about my business weekly, or maybe I like to think about my business daily, right? I can change the time frame here, and it's going to automatically adjust my goals down, right? So if I want to hit 500 conversations a month, it's done the math for me. I should be doing just over 100 each week, right? That's going to keep me on track, right? I can also go to much larger date ranges. I could look at this entire quarter, and there's so many different ways that you can report on all of this. But the point is when you go to that goal calculator, run it, and hit populate goals, it's handling all of that for you. And now all you got to do is go in, now you know your math of sales, right? You know exactly what it's going to take to hit the numbers that you want to hit this year. Now we've just got to go in and execute on it, right? So next thing we're going to walk you through, kind of the next section of this training, is how do I actually track my business through Sisu, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you can fill each of the circles on this dashboard. How can I track conversations? And then if I'm tracking any other activities down here, how do I track those as well, right? So one thing that's really important to understand in Sisu is that everything from appointment down to closed is tracked as a transaction, right? And yes, we understand that an appointment is not a transaction yet, but it's pipeline, right? So we're tracking it as like a pipeline transaction, somebody who you've met with for that listing appointment or who you've met with for that first kind of buyer consultation. And we're actually going to track information about that person. And that's super critical. Brian, maybe you just want to elaborate a little bit on why that's so important, because we see a lot of teams in their spreadsheets just track, I had 10 appointments. Well, that's pretty vague and it doesn't give you a lot of context, right? So we want to add that context. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you go on an appointment, it's critical that you start tracking this as a transaction. I mean, even for the point of forecasting, a lot of people, we actually ask you to put in like, what is the gross GCI? What is your team split if you're on a team, or what is your split? The reason we do that is because even though if you go on a listing appointment, I get that, let's say someone says their home is maybe worth $500,000. I get that that's not exactly what you're going to sell it for. But you want to put in that $500,000 so we can forecast your income. I mean, again, we want you to treat this like a business, right? And as soon as you get that person under contract, now you can put in the exact amount for that. But it's really important, as Zach said, that you're not just for conversations. It's how many conversations does it take to get an appointment? But once you get an appointment set, it's important that you actually track it as a transaction.
Love it. Okay, so let's dive into how to actually do that, right? So one thing that's really nice in Sisu is everything's clickable. So if you're sitting here and you're saying, you know, you see appointments set and you actually click on that, it will peel back the layers and show you what those appointments actually are and who they were set with, right? Right now I don't have any, so I'm gonna go ahead and add one. So I can use this little plus button. There's a couple places to add transactions, but this little plus button, if you go into the transactions drop down right here and just click on that, you can see all transactions that you're tracking for yourself. So you can see I actually have a pipeline transaction right here. I'm going to go ahead and add a new one, right? So let's say I have set I've set a listing appointment. Let's do a listing appointment with my client, David Ortiz, and he is a buyer. I'm going to track my lead source. I can customize these lead sources, but we have a pretty robust list built for you. Let's say that this one is just Sphere.
Hey, Zach, we're not seeing what you're doing. We're just seeing the dashboard.
A lot more when you see the whole thing. Thanks for the call out there. Okay, so how did I get to this screen? Let's back up to that, right? So if I want to track an appointment, I need to track it as a transaction. The way that I do that is by going to this transaction screen, and there's a little plus button right here, right? So I've done that, right? I'm going to go ahead and say I've set a list, we'll do listing appointment with my client. This is a seller. The lead source is going to be Sphere of Influence, right? There's drop down here. You can customize this drop down for your lead sources. I'll put his email address, david@sisu.co, and anything else I want to track. And this is all optional. Like you don't have to track all of this stuff. You can customize what you're actually tracking. It's all pretty flexible in that sense. I think I might have cut out. Can you guys let me know in the chat if you can still hear me, or if Brian was the one that dropped out? You still hear me all right, Brian?
I can hear you now. I couldn't for a second. I don't know if it was my headset or not, so I took it off.
Okay, we're good. Keep moving here. So I'm tracking all this information, and I'm going to go ahead and put an appointment date. So these dates are what drive somebody through the funnel, right? So if I put an appointment set date of today, and I go ahead and add this transaction, let's go back to the dashboard and see what that does for me. You can see how my listing appointment set went from 0 to 1. I'm now on pace. We're looking at this weekly, so I'm on pace to hit my weekly goal. And when I'm looking at this, or when my mentor or my coach is looking at this with me, we can actually dig into that and say, okay, cool, you had a listing appointment. Well, what happened with it? What lead source was it from? How did you get it? What's the next steps? Like, you can really track that deep context in that pipeline, right? Brian shares this all the time, but you sold what, 40 something listings your first year in the business, right, Brian?
48, yes. But yes, go ahead, Zach.
And one of the things you did was you kept a book with your top 10 clients, right? That was your pipeline, right?
Yeah, I always, every morning, the first thing I did, I looked at this little paper book, and we have one of these in Sisu on your back end. But to say, okay, who do I have here in my pipeline that usually had about 15 people that I think I could get under contract this month, right? It was the first thing I did every morning. And we have one of these in here. It's called the Agent Accountability Report for you guys.
Love it. So you're building that, right? Rather than keeping a spreadsheet or a book or anything, right? You've got that in Sisu, where there's so many benefits and so many different things, metrics that you're getting. But let's keep moving this listing. So we're going to move this listing down through. We're going to go ahead and add. So I'm just going to go back into this transaction, and I'll just add an appointment met date. Right. So let's say we set and met with them today. Very, very fast moving deal. Now, as I do that, you can see that my listing appointments met went from 0 to 1, right? Let's go ahead and add a sign date, right? I'll just add the rest. We'll say this is the fastest transaction of all time. I set the appointment, cash buyer, we close today. Just to show you what happens here, right? So now I've gone all the way down from conversations all the way down to what actually closed in this time period, right? So right now,
Zach, just to address a couple of questions. One, somebody asked, you're tracking by the person, not by the address. You track by both, right? Once you have an address, if it's a listing, you have the address up front. If it's a buyer, you don't have the address until you go under contract. So then you would add that into that form. Also, if you look at this, these circles show a goal on the bottom, and the top number is what you have actually done. Okay, so your goal is always at the bottom of the circle. Top of the circle is what you've actually done. So you can see in there, Zach has now hit his goal on listings for the month because his goal was to do 1 listing this month. That outside ring is based on today being December 5th. That outside ring is that's showing where you should be pacing to hit that goal based on the month, because the month is what we're currently looking at. You could actually look at this by year, by quarter, by whatever you want. But right now we're looking at this by month. So for the month of December, Zach has hit his listing goal based on the activities we just did.
Yep, exactly. And you'll notice that, yes, I tracked that I have a closing, but what I haven't tracked is how much I actually made from it and what was the transaction price point, right? So as you get further into the transaction, actually from step one, you should be putting in, and this is why this is one of the fields that's here on your transaction form, is what are they actually selling for? So let's say this is 650,000. What's my GCI, right? Let's say I'm getting 3% as the listing agent, and my split on that is 50, right? So I can go ahead and update that. Now I'm actually tracking not just that I had a closing or not just that I set an appointment, but how much commission is that appointment, potentially going to generate for me. And when I refresh this screen, you can actually see some more numbers, right? I can see how much I've made in 2024 on net income. I can see my average per deal. I can see my average GCI percentage. I've got my average listing price. You'll have your average buyer price as I start to close buyers in here. So just so many good metrics that you're going to know to be able to understand your business better than 90%. 90% of agents in this business don't know these numbers. They just don't, right? Or it would take them a long time to pull them, and you'll have them at your fingertips.
There's a lot of questions about what you can track about the cap. Yes, we're not going to dive into the commission form today, but you can actually track your caps and the commissions. You can track everything down to the penny. You can track marketing fees, TC fees. You can, any fee in a transaction. So when people upgrade, just so you know, we have a full, the eXp platform is really focused around agent productivity, but we have a full back office that allows you to track everything that you would need to do for a team. So most of the largest teams in the industry, probably over 500 of those are eXp teams, are tracking and all of this on the front end and doing everything in the back end in Sisu as well. And they're integrating us with their CRM, whatever that is. And so with the CRM and with Sisu, you can really manage your entire business. However, what we're focused on today is really the sales performance stuff, and if you're an agent and you want to track and grow your business, this is a great way to do it. Exactly. If you're a team and you have agents, this is a great way to help them increase their agent productivity. If you want to actually go into the back end, then you want to go, I provided a link, but you want to go to sisu.co/demo. They will give you special eXp pricing and talk about upgrading your account.
Yep, I just dropped that link in the chat. You do have that preferred pricing as an eXp agent, and the main reason people typically look at upgrading is if you want to run your full transaction management out of here, if you want to integrate, all your systems, your CRM, SkySlope, stuff like that, right? Which we do all of that. We actually are going to do a webinar on that a week from today at the same time, and that promotion will start going out. You'll all get an email that will have a link to sign up for that webinar. If you want to learn about the upgraded version of Sisu, the full version, the back office that Brian's talking about, we will run that next week. Today we're just focused on let's get value out of what's already here, right? And let's start using it because it's there for you, and it's ready to be used. So.
Tracy asked a question about tracking numbers from Sisu. Yes, typically people that have FUB, Tracy, actually use Sisu for that, and then we will push it into FUB. So kind of the reverse direction of it looks like what you're doing.
Yep. And the process that we just went through. So for example, right now, we talked about conversations. right? And how do I track conversations, or how do I track different activities? That's this little record screen up here, the first tab on this. And you can see all the metrics that I want to track. So very simple. Most people do this on their phone, right? Actually, we have a mobile app. You can go to the App Store, download it, and you can track these activities on your phone, which is where most people do it. If you're connected with your CRM, it will just feed all that in automatically. So as you make calls in the CRM, it will feed that in. That's part of the upgraded full version of Sisu. So you should talk to our team about that if that's interesting to you. But yeah, anything I want to track. So we talked about, basically tracking from, let's pull this personal dashboard back up, tracking conversations all the way down to closings. There's other things here that I can be tracking: text messages, exercise. I can set goals around those. I can set an open house goal, right? So just for simplicity, let's say I did an open house today, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh my dashboard here, and you can see it's tracking that I had that open house, right? So all kinds of ways to track just about anything that you want. The other thing I just want to kind of pause on too is you're gonna have questions, right? You all already have tons of questions, which I love. I love the engagement in the chat. We have, I'll say, maybe biased, but we have some of the best support in the industry. We really do. I clicked on the chat bot just barely down there in the bottom right-hand corner. And what you can do is you can ask a question. We do have an AI agent. So I think if any of you are already using ChatGPT and you want like super quick answers, this AI that we're talking to here, we named him Spot, is trained on all of the Sisu data, all of our blogs, all of Brian's podcasts. Like it's very knowledgeable to get you quick answers, but you can always just talk to a person. Right. And if you talk to a person, our average response times in normal business hours are like 1 to 2 minutes, right? So you get very quick response there, whether you want to chat with our AI agent or if you want to track with an actual person, right? It looks like our reply time right now is about 3 minutes, right? So very quick support. If you have to leave the chat, it will send you an email. You'll get that support over there in your email. So it looks like Kayla's already on it, right? So you can see how fast that support is. Right. So some of the questions, we're probably going to move into a little bit of a Q&A here. But if we don't happen to get to your question, if you still, have questions that come up as you're setting this up, use the chat, use our team, right? Make sure you're getting that support. Right? Usually the answer is pretty simple. We can help you get to it, right? So I'll pause there, Brian. Anything because I haven't been watching the chat completely, anything you feel like we should maybe dive in, spend some time on?
Yeah, the first thing is I would put up a QR code for people who don't have an account so that they can actually access and get their account set up. Maybe you could share where this is in eXp's back office. I know Kendall put it in eXp's back office, but I don't know where it is. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing that's coming up, there's a lot of people that have been through FastCAP. They need their account transitioned. They don't know how to do that. I know you said that that's going to be transitioned by the FastCAP team, but let's maybe just go into that a little bit because there are a lot of questions about that.
Yeah. Okay. So to hit the first thing, this is a QR code. You can scan it. You can also just go sisu.co/exp, and that will get you to the, just double check real quick. That will get you to the early access form. Right now, some of you are probably thinking, well, I filled that out. I didn't get access. I'm still trying to get into Sisu. There's really a handful of reasons that could happen. I did put in the note of this, you see down below the QR code, you can reach out to success@sisu.co anytime. They can help you get to the bottom of it. But most commonly, if you requested access and you are already a member of FastCAP, basically you're already in Sisu, or maybe you're on a team inside of eXp that already uses Sisu and they've already got you in there. That's where it's not able to create an account for you because you are actually already have one using that same email address, right? So you should either do a forgot password to try and reset that, or just reach out to our success team, success@sisu.co, and say, hey, I submitted the form. I was trying to get in. I don't know why it's not letting me in. And we'll be happy to help out with that. The other thing potentially that could be happening is just double check your email. Like make sure you're checking all mail, check your spam, check your junk, make sure that you should have an email from noreply@sisu.co, right? That's how you get access. That was the first question. Brian, the second question, can you repeat that one for me?
Just people wanting to transition their FastCAP accounts.
Yep. So that will all happen through the FastCAP team. And so you want to coordinate with them on that, right? We have people on our team that are helping the FastCAP team to transition it, but you will be able to transition it into your own, and you won't lose data, right? You'll have all the same stuff you were already tracking. So,
yeah, one thing I want to clarify. It sounds like a few of you already have Sisu out there. If you already have Sisu, and you're leveraging Sisu for transaction management, for client portal, for with integrations, stuff like that, this account would not replace that, because that account is doing much more than this. But this account is absolutely free. Everything we've shown you today is absolutely free for all eXp teams and agents. So hopefully you guys are clear on that.
Yep. Cool.
This is again, eXp did this FastCAP program, had tremendous success. They wanted to extend it out to all of their agents because they know it's going to increase agent productivity. And so we wanted to join with eXp and get this into the hands of all agents so that you can increase your agent productivity. Again, if you want more than that, just talk to our team and we can talk about, what that looks like. Yep. To do that, just go to sisu.co/demo. I'll put that in the chat here again.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. sisu.co/demo. Make sure they know that you're with eXp, and you'll automatically get that preferred pricing. Man, there's like 100 other things I want to show you all, and we're almost up on time here. We will be doing these. We'll be doing more of these. We do tons of webinars, and we promote them. So we will do webinars specific for eXp, and then our normal webinars that we do. We do have the one that's happening a week from today. It will go a little deeper on the back office version of Sisu, the transaction management, CRM integration. So I see a ton of questions about CRM, SkySlope integration. Watch for that email. Make sure you get registered for that. It'll be December 12th, week from today, same time. Make sure you get on that webinar so you can get the full picture there. If you don't want to wait for that webinar next week, go to sisu.co/demo. We've got a whole team ready to talk to you, and they can walk you through what exactly you already have and how to use it. And they can spend more hands-on time with you. And they can also talk to you about pricing and anything else that you maybe want to talk about.
Hey, Zach, one thing I want to put out there, Matt Smith, one of the top eXp teams, he actually started with us when he had about 3 agents. He was on my podcast a few weeks ago. My podcast is called Grit, the Real Estate Growth Mindset podcast. Go check that out. Matt talks about how he leverages Sisu, and I think you would all enjoy that. Probably, hearing from an eXp team on what that looks like, I think would be extremely valuable for you guys. And there are tons and tons of eXp teams that I've interviewed on that. So take a look at that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That webinar was incredible. So lots of content on our blog. Chat is a great place. If you have any Sisu questions, that chat bot is your best friend. We have a great dedicated team there.
Zach, what's the access to the podcast? Is it just from the Sisu website? Is it in the blog section?
Yeah, if you just go to sisu.co/blog, all of our, so Brian does podcasts. The one he did with Matt Smith was amazing. That was recently published. There's one with John Cheplack recently, was amazing too. So spend some time with that. And we will be promoting more of these webinars. This is just the first of many, but hopefully this has given you kind of that taste of what you can do with Sisu and some ideas on how to get started, right? Or at least where to go for help if you're not certain about where to get started. Last thing I'll add, and Brian, I'd be curious if you have any parting words of wisdom, but it's separation season right now. It officially is separation season between Thanksgiving and the new year, is when so much of this industry takes their focus off of their business. And for those of you, and that's why I respect to all of you for being on this call, because this emphasis and focus that you're putting on your business in this time of year, that's what's going to separate you for all of 2025. And it's going to be a hell of a year for the people that do. So
yeah, what I would say, if you guys have not done your business planning for next year, whether you're an agent or a team, now is the time. Get that done. Make sure that you put forth the efforts this month, like Zach said. If you guys will do the efforts this month, you can come in strong in January and February. If you don't do it this month and you take the month off, what's going to happen is January and February are going to be a grind, and you're not going to see any results until March. So make sure that you guys focus and work this month, get your goals in there, and start leveraging Sisu to really increase your business.
Let's make it happen. So we'll be in touch with the next webinars. You'll get a recording of this probably within the next hour or so. It'll be published. It will go to your email automatically. You'll be able to watch this, share this. But thank you all for spending the time. Wish we had another 3 hours to spend with you. We will do more of these webinars, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks everyone.